everyone, my name's Lily and I'm the book reviewer behind Utopia State of Mind, and today I'm going to chat with you about books I want to be adapted into anything. So I just want to start off with a few disclaimers. The first one is I am only picking books that are urban fantasy settings because I think that second world fantasy is extremely hard to do right. And I'm kind of a little bit worried about it. So I'm trying to pick books that have kind of an urban fantasy. So there's like an urban setting. There aren't, their sets will have to be constructed for them, but it's not like to the same extent that it would be, for example, if I picked Babel. I'm sure you all thought I would pick Babel, even though Babel, I guess, well, it's historical fiction fantasy, but it's kind of like, that one is a bad example. But if I, for example, picked The Poppy War, right? So I'm picking all urban fantasy books. And the second disclaimer I want to make is that if you've been following me for a while on various social media platforms, you'll know that I have a degree of aphantasia. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, but it's that thing where like you can't picture things in your head. I have only recently kind of discovered this, but it makes so much sense to me. I've never been a very good artistic person because I have a really hard time conceptualizing things. I've always had a really hard time like flipping things in my mind. My mom loves to show this example of a coaster, like a pottery coaster I tried to make for my mom that said love, but actually doesn't say love at all. It says evil because it's like backwards. But I don't know. Basically, I have a really hard time manipulating images in my mind. It's not like entirely nothing. You know, there's a scale for aphantasia, and I can see some, but like it's very, very bad. I think that also doesn't help with directions as well. I just like cannot picture the map in my head, no matter how many times I see it, even if I've grown up there. Anyway, my point is, I'm not going to give fan casts or anything like that because I cannot picture people really. The descriptions just go by me. I cannot really picture settings. So like, that's why I tend not to do any like Pinterest mood things. They just don't make any they don't make any sense to me. And so I would also not say that I should be in charge of making these adaptations. No way. Like I can't. Very really, physically, literally cannot. Anyway, so I'm going to chat about these 4 adult urban fantasy recommendations that I think should be adapted. These were just something that I picked off my shelf within the last couple of weeks, but I definitely, as I was like taking out the books, I thought of the different things I could do for example, YA. So if you're interested in kind of other genres that I should talk about, let me know below. The first one I want to talk about is Ebony Gate. I think Ebony Gate is San Francisco. I'm not going to be able to tell you everywhere that it is. But anyway, Ebony Gate set in San Francisco, and this has an incredible urban fantasy setting. I love this idea of basically the main character is a former, what was her title? Her former title was The Butcher. And so she kind of retreats to San Francisco as a way to get away from her violent past and kind of get sucked back into the world, sucked into the community, sucked into everything that's happening in Ebony Gate. But I think it would be really great because so many of these things so many of these things you can picture. Like, so many things you could picture from Ebony Gate, but I think it would be really fun. I've only been to San Francisco a few times, but I think that it would be really cool to see it set in San Francisco. And so of all of them, maybe this is the easiest to adapt. Maybe I should rank it in terms of easiest to adapt. The next one in that same vein would be Bitter Medicine, also very much an urban fantasy vibe. This one goes a little bit further because it's portal fantasy, so it makes it a little bit hard, but basically if you like the idea also of magical bureaucracy and descendants of gods, Bitter Medicine. This one also is super, super swoony as well. This is more of like a urban fantasy romance here. I really, really adored it. And it's basically one person who is kind of a magical calligrapher at a temp agency, and the other one who is a top security expert, all in quotes. So like, just imagine what a top security expert would do. That's him. And so those are the 2 characters there. And it's just super swoony. And I just found myself totally captivated by Bitter Medicine. I think that would be really great. I don't know how we would get through like the portals and the fairies and everything like that, but I would love that one. And then the next one, oh God, like of the next two, which one would be hardest? Okay. Of the next one, I'm gonna say, funnily enough, Jade City. So Jade City doesn't actually take place in like a place that we have. It's a magical island, but it is still an urban fantasy, contemporary fantasy setting to it. So that's why I've included it in this video. Everyone has like magical jade powers or magical powers, which are helped by jade, magical jade wielders, and like this trilogy, one of my favorite in the world. So it's kind of hard to talk about because I can never remember in my mind what happened in book 1, book 2, book 3. But basically, it's revolving around, at least Jade City is revolved around the one main family and how everyone kind of navigates power, being in the family, being out of the family, wielding jade, not wielding jade, power, responsibility, duty, everything like that. And so Jade City, I think, would be really cool. As I said, the world seems similar enough, recognizable enough to our world, where I think that there are things certainly that would have to be made, but I don't think that there's as much that would have to be done in terms of this and in the last book. But this one would be great. I would love an adaptation so much of this. Like, this is just, it would be so beautiful. I would imagine, I would hope. It would be so beautiful, and I would love to see this on the screen. I would love to see the whole family and just cry. Just like cry all the time. And the last one is The City We Became, which of all of them besides, I guess, the first, well, besides Jade City, right? This one is set in New York City, and it's part of the Great Cities series, and so it like very easily could be set in New York City because it legit is set in New York City. So you might be like, oh, well, why didn't you pick this one first if it's literally set in New York City and every one of the characters is a personification of a different neighborhood in the city? And it's because the magic, I think, would be hard. So basically, there are these, how do I even describe it? There's like magical things that, like, okay, it's not like Inception in the fact that like the city doesn't start ending up going into the sky or whatever, but there's very much kind of this idea of a magical entity, magical powers that are affecting the real life ones, and I think that that would be kind of difficult to adapt and difficult to figure out how it would look adapted, which is why it's probably the last one. And also, like, the powers in The City We Became are much larger. New York City, as I said, the neighborhoods are its own kind of entities, its own kind of souls. And so because of that, their magic is much, much larger. And so of the 4, this one I think has the largest fantasy, the largest magic, which is why it's in the end, even though it is set in New York City. So those were just my 4 picks for books that I would love to be adapted into any sort of TV, film, limited series, ranked in terms of what I think is the most easy to the hardest to adapt. Let me know down below what you think, if you agree with my ranking, but also let me know below what you think of a book that would be adapted into a great kind of TV, movie, series, or whatever. And I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!